So the main pressure on SaaS is the cost of development reducing. So companies are wondering, why should I pay, say, $1 million over a period of X years? Why not try to build it on my own when I can white code it plus put a few engineers?
The company that will move from your play SaaS-based model to AI-first models, they would likely survive. Others would probably die a natural death. And this is again normal. That's the way the market has always behaved. The second element I would say is that it's very easy in the AI world to get lost than in the previous world. And the reason is because in the previous world, technology would take some time to evolve, even if it's a quarter. In the AI world, there is a new model that is coming in every single day, literally every single day. So let's say, he has been in meetings where you're talking about bugs that are there. Now imagine when you talk about bugs, we're talking about technical bugs. For example, this field was not mapped or that field was not mapped. We're talking about the most granular level, the nuts and bolts level. And he would keep reminding people that, is this report or is this important because it helps me achieve, let's say it's a revenue driven project, is it helping me drive the revenue? If the answer is yes, let's talk about it. If no, let's move on.
But let's look at transformations with or without AI. So, reports saying 80% of AI transformations are, not working out. What percentage of transformations actually work irrespective of AI or not AI?
Even if you take the AI out, so your transformation, you're right, 80% of the transformations still don't work. And part of the reason is...
Today we are joined by Arun Trivedi, Vice President and Business Leader at Tech Mahindra. Arun is a seasoned executive who has spent the last 2 decades in driving profitable growth, digital transformation, and AI-led business innovation. Arun has led across industries from consulting at PwC to leadership roles at Cognizant, Genpact, Wipro, and now Tech Mahindra. Arun's expertise spans P&L ownership, scaling businesses, global partnerships, customer success, and AI-driven transformation. Beyond the boardroom, he hosts the AI with Arun Show, a platform where global leaders share how they're using AI to reshape industries. In this episode of the Inference show, we'll dive into Arun's career journey, his perspectives on leadership and AI transformation, and his vision for how AI will redefine the future of business. Arun, welcome to the Inference show.
Thank you, Manish. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm so used to saying that, welcome to the show. That is, it feels a little weird sitting on the other side of the table.
Awesome. Arun, great to have you on the show. Arun, that's a really long and impressive list of roles and responsibilities across different fields. You've done work in consulting, technology services, now lead software platform businesses. How did these choices come to be? Was it, more deliberate? Did you have a plan, or did it just happen to be?
It was a mix of things, Vinesh. When I started my career at PwC, so I joined PwC from campus after my engineering, then spent some time with my MBA, and then I rejoined PwC because it was a great set of people, and my partner really wanted me to come back and work with him again. And that's how I came to the US. So PwC had a non-compete agreement with IBM. That agreement expired 2007, and that's when I came to the US from. PwC was setting up a global body of experts from all over the world to come and work in the US and figure out how they should be approaching transformation, large-scale transformations. So I was selected from India, and that's how I came to the US. After PwC, where I worked extensively on large-scale transformation engagements, helping my clients move from wherever they were to the next level, I started working a lot with tech companies, and that was an introduction to tech. Worked a lot. I was part of the transition that many companies made from the traditional on-prem models to SaaS-based models. This was way back 15, 16 years ago, 2009, 2010. And after PwC, I moved to Cognizant, where again I was involved in the large-scale transformations focused on SAP. So many of the clients were involved with SAP, so we worked a lot helping using SAP as a transformation roadmap for them to enable the technology and the process transformations. And from there, Manish, I moved on to Genpact for about a year, where we were the co-lead for consulting in North America. I spent about a year there, and then I moved to Wipro. Wipro had a similar role. I was responsible for a P&L, or what we call that software platform and gating. It was a great learning experience for me because, not only was it looking at it from a P&L perspective, but it was, how our industries, particularly software platform and gaming, how are they transforming the business? How are they using AI? The AI is still in a put an infancy at that point of time. In the last 1 year that I have been with the Tech Mahindra, the role has been focused specifically on software platforms. I have not so much gaming or software platforms for North America. And this is again a very interesting role because now we're in the thick of thing for AI. Every conversation that you go to, every boardroom meeting, irrespective of who you're talking to, you could be talking to somebody at a developer level, you could be talking to somebody at the board level. Everybody is interested to learn more about AI, what other companies are doing, and how they can use AI for either revenue or operational efficiency or experience.
We will track each one of these in detail in a bit. So AI is of course everywhere today, and you've done a lot of work on AI, leading teams to implement transformations. But I think you've also had a much wider exposure to the capabilities of AI. You talk to a lot of people as a part of your show. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, certainly. So, for your viewers, I run a YouTube channel which is called AI with Arun Show, and that show is focused on AI. So we do 4 and now 5 different things on the channel. So one is every Friday there's an interview with either a leader or a CXO or a founder or a professor or a policymaker on AI. And these are in-depth the interview session that I do with the leaders. The second thing we do is weekly AI news. So for that particular week, or anything that happened in the world of AI from around the world, the new model that came up, or the M&A that happened, or something that was done in the world of AI around funding. So we do that. That's what we cover in the weekly AI news. The third thing we do is the AI deep trends. So in that particular week, any kind of a trending topic that comes up, we do a deep dive on that particular topic. The fourth thing we do is solution demos. And here we typically work with a lot of founders. We showcase their solution on the platform. And the fifth thing that we have just about started is called the AI book. And here, let's say you're interested in writing a book, something to do with AI. So instead of you trying to write the whole book, work with publishers, you come on the channel, you and I will work together, a team will work together with you to transform that book, let's say the 10 chapter book, into a series of podcasts. It could be 3 or 4 or 10 podcasts, doesn't really matter, but we'll work together to figure that out. So we have done one so far with somebody from YouTube, Google, and looking forward to do more of that. So those are the 5 things that we have to do on the platform, AI with Arun Show. I'm very excited about how it has taken shape.
Awesome. Yeah, it's a very successful channel. You have, 130,000 subscribers now, so it's pretty awesome. Yeah, no, thank you, Nimish. Arun, let's go back a little bit on how it all started. So you finished as, your undergrad, you finished as a class of 2000, right? Class of the millennium. Tell us a little bit more about, where you finished your education from and what was that journey?
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in Dorkela, in Orissa, and that's where I did my 12th term. And then I had the opportunity to go to IIT Puripur after that, the year 96. I studied chemical engineering. One of the key things that I learned during my engineering days was about problem solving. So while the course offered, multiple avenues to learn and to network and make really, really deep connections and human connections, because those were the days that internet was sort of just about starting. Right, so we're exposed to meeting people in person, not through the social media platforms. So the deep human connections were made with that time. But more importantly, or equally important, I would say, was the art of problem solving. That's what I regard potentially. And I took that learning when I joined PwC, and the various projects that we worked together at PwC during those times. They're all about helping our clients figure out the problems, break down the problems, and that almost like a puzzle, right? Or you figure out a problem to small components, solve each of the components by keeping the big picture in mind, and then put it all back together so that you still have sight of the end product that the customer or partners are trying to solve and work out. So, that was a very exciting time, Manish.
Yeah, I was studying at IIT Kharagpur.
IIT Kharagpur was, I would say it was a life-changing event for me. So I was the first person in my family to make it to an engineering college, and that to a place like IIT. So I did not have any experience from that perspective, right? Nobody tell me that this is how the engineering looks like. It was all firsthand for me. But then what I loved about IIT was two broad things, I would say. One is I made deep friends, though many of those friends I still have, including you, Manish, and many other friends that I have. Particularly, we live in the Silicon Valley where there are so many batchmates close to us, and they have become family friends over a period of time. And those are the relationships that I nurture. Many of them have also been on my channel, So the channel is small. They have had so many of those batchmates who are doing amazing things, and they have been kind enough to come on the channel, and they still do. They are with Arun Show, so very grateful for that. The other thing I think that IIT teaches you is apart from the course subject that you study. So I study chemical engineering, so I don't do a job that is anywhere related to a chemical engineering job. But the core horizontal skill that you learn over there is the art of problem solving. All right. And how do you solve problems? Not just from a problem composition or a decomposition and then putting it all back together, but also the human element of that. All right. Because when you solve problems for customers, it's not a technology solution that you put together and then go deep with it. Right. It's also about how you implement those solutions. At the end of the day, you would have a great solution. If the solution does not get adopted, it does not get used, then the solution is up to use. So putting all of those two together, right, making those deep connections and learning how to solve problems, I think those were my two biggest takeaways of those 4 years that I
Understood. Arun, let's delve a little bit deeper into the problem solving aspect. What are the dimensions that you're solving across today in your current role at Tech Mahindra? You said the technology is one dimension, people is another, adoption is third. Now, what are all the dimensions that you look?
So I think the first thing is about the problem definition part, right? So when we try to define our work with our customers and clients, the first thing is trying to define what the problem statement is. If you don't define the problem statement well, there is no solution. And when we approach the problem statement from that perspective, truly defining, can I describe the problem in 1 or 2 words maximum? Many of the problems are about either, what I call as CROP, who stand for, the perceives for customer experience or end cost. The R is for revenue, the O is for operational efficiency, and the P is for people experience, product, meaning the product that the customers are making, and then the partner experience. So that's the way I classify it. And any kind of a problem statement that we have, it would fall into one of those low buckets, what we call the CROP framework, and or it may be more, one of bottom borrowable elements. Once we have the problem statement defined, then we try to break it up into different components. There's a people component, there's a process component, there's a technology component, and then there's a strategy component. What I mean by the strategy is in what form or shape should we implement a solution? Should we do it in one single go? For example, if it's a global company and they're looking for a transformation in their HR process or the customer service process, should we do it in one go or should we do it in multiple steps? And take one country as an example where we can implement a solution, learn from it, and then go and roll it out to other parts of the world. Upward, we're making some changes. So those are the kind of thing that we get into. So it's all of these put together that forms part of the problem statement and the solution that we deliver.
Understood. We'll continue to delve deeper into that. The year is 2000. You're the class of the millennium, expected to do amazing things, which, I think you've done remarkable work over the years, Arun. And the future is right in front of all of us with AI. So a lot of opportunity today to have an impact. You're finishing chemical engineering. I would assume there's a lot of work in software with the .com, although it's close to bursting now, right? You stopped working at PwC. Tell us a little bit more.
Yeah. So when I joined PwC, I joined as a business analyst, working with our US and the UK firms in global tax systems. So PwC would have different kind of assignee, what we call assignee with that point of time, meaning people from different countries being assigned to different parts of the world. And we made a platform. It was in Microsoft Technologies then for taxes. How would people pay taxes? What would the tax implications across different parts of the world? From a home country assigned person to travel to another part of the world. So that's what the technology was, and the bulk of the time was spent on making technology like that for our customers, who are mostly internal PwC employee, but the actual users of that technology. So my role was that of a business analyst, working with different kinds of users, technology partners, and the underlying platform companies, trying to figure out what the solution looks like, the workflow looks like, the process looks like, and helping with the implementation, the technology implementation, and the adoption of those solutions. So that's what I did in those 2 years. It was very fruitful. Again, I made a lot of friends during that time, and many of those friends were very close. Manish, when I started doing my MBA, because of certain personal reasons, I did not have the money as well, and I lost my father also around that time. But the depth of those relationships that were made during those 2 years I had friends who were actually helped me financially when I did my MBA, because the fees that had to be paid at a certain point of time, and the kind of effort that goes into preparing for an MBA. So I was very fortunate to have developed those kinds of friendship and the trust that people had uh, to to help me financially at that point of time. And the reason I bring it up, Manish, is because uh, that was the time when the internet was still very, very infant, right? There was no social media. So if you went out of a city, your phone number changed, because you could not carry the same phone. Portability was not a thing in those days, 2001, 2002. So you had to have a new phone number. You could have put a cell phone number at that point of time. So many of the friends that they had, they had so much, they loved me so much, they're willing to pay me money for my fees, even though they were not quite sure if I was able to repay them back. So that is a depth of friendship that I made, and I'm very grateful to all of those people during that time.
Understood. And then how was studying an XML?
Yeah, XRA also was very similar. It's slightly different from my engineering days, because typically in the MBA program, you have people who have completed the undergrad, so there's a bit of more maturity that bring to the table, and that all at the same time there are people who have worked in different kinds of places. So I have myself had worked for about 2 years before my MBA, and there are other people who had worked for anywhere from 0 to 10, actually 12 years, something like that, and all kinds of people who had worked in the army, people who had fought in the Kargil War on 1990 2000, when India had a Kargil War. So different kinds of experiences, different kinds of backgrounds of people. Not everybody was an engineer. People had commerce and arts and the different kinds of background. So there's a very different kind of diversity that we had. Also, the gender ratio is far better during their MBA days. So that exposed somebody like me, who came from a very a unique background, in the sense that always worked with engineers before, always had more male dominated teams. But in an environment where people really had diverse backgrounds, the gender diversity, background diversity. So that was very that was a huge learning experience for personally for me.
And then right after your MBA, you decide to come back to PwC. That's not a usual path for people. Many times people will go do an MBA for new opportunities. What made you do that?
The reason why I joined PwC was one gentleman who had partially no longer there. His name is Rashid Gupta. To call him Rashida. Rashida was the partner, meaning he was several levels above me in the organization hierarchy in PwC. One of the leaders, executive leaders in PwC, whereas when I had joined PwC, I was just a campus hire. All right. But Rashida was very nice to me. I lost my father in 2001, and Rashida actually paid for my plane fare uh, from Calcutta to another city, and from there all the way. That was the first time I actually been on the plane. And Rashida was extremely kind to me. He exactly knew what to come where, and he was always there to help me. He gave me his personal cell phone number as well, so I could call him whenever I wanted to. And he was a great influence on my life. So after my MBA, he knew that I was pursuing my MBA. He called me and said, "Hey, Arun, why don't we come back? We're starting something new. We want to start at the ERP consulting practice into the 2004." And there's no way I would have said no to him. I mean, he was more than a friend to me. He had always been that kind of influence, mostly for me, after I rejoined PwC in 2004. Unfortunately, we lost him some time back, but he was the reason why I rejoined PwC.
And then you worked there for 10 years?
Yes, I worked there for 10 years. That's how I came to the US in 2007, again through PwC in San Jose. And I continued working there till 2014.
Arun, a lot of people say that SaaS is in trouble today, and it seems to be that way as well. But you were around in the early days of SaaS when it came to be. What fundamentally made SaaS very successful? What led to its evolution so quickly around the 2010 time frame, and why is SaaS struggling today?
Great question, Manish. Great question. So if you look back at the pre SaaS era, right? We're in the world of on-prem world, right? Meaning you buy something, a software product, and you would have it all your life, technically. But then the problem was there was a lot of capital expenses that company would have to incur in order to buy those kinds of perpetual licenses or perpetual products. So from an investment standpoint, it took a lot of investments. If you wanted to make a change to a newer version, because technology was evolving, and so were the products and features of these technology products, you would always have a problem because now you'd have to invest even more trying to upgrade from version A to version A+1, and that was always problematic. So what SaaS did at that point of time was it was generally delivered through the cloud, so people would have the opportunity to have access to the latest of greatest version, and because it was the product would be people were subscribing to the service for a period of time, they will always have the ability to have the latest and greatest version. So it did two things. One is it ensured that people would have access to the latest and greatest version as technology evolved, number one. And number two, from the investment standpoint, instead of spending bulk amount of money trying to pay upfront, they now have the ability to pay over a period of time. So imagine if you were to pay for your phone, somebody would say, here's the phone that you have. You are unable to make any changes, but here you go and you could have it for the rest of your life. But here's $1 million that you have to pay in. Versus, us paying $30, $40 every month and having the ability to upgrade our phones and to take advantage of new features. So that's what SaaS did to that world. And that's why it was so successful at that point of time. But now, Manish, what is happening is because of AI now, there are a few foundational models that are coming up. And those foundational models are enabling other companies to create, number one, create very, very rapidly. And the entry barriers for those kinds of build is extremely low. I could wipe code into some point, right? Or I could create something very easily with all the technology that are available to me, right? So I just need to have a very small team of developers. Having access to developers again very easy. So because of that, SaaS is again, the traditional SaaS companies are getting danger. I mean, think about a company like Salesforce CRM. Today, with a small team of 3 core people, I have the ability to build something like that. Maybe not 100% what Salesforce CRM does, but realistically close with a small team of people in a short amount of time. So do you really need to pay advanced licensing or subscription fees to Salesforce, or can I create something for my own organizations at a much cheaper way? Right, I'll pay much less because it's all in-house, and make sure that I'm configuring it based on my own business requirements rather than depending on somebody else. So those are the kind of questions that people are trying to ask. And because of these foundational models that exist, it's very easy for me to build wrappers around them for my internal use cases if I want to. So SaaS is in a way of some danger that you have heard of all the, like Satya Nadella, for example, in talking about how the death of SaaS is almost about. So those are the kind of things that the SaaS-based companies have to evolve to build more AI-led companies or AI-first company. And you almost see the transition now. The company that will move from your play SaaS-based model to AI-first models, they would likely survive, assuming that they have a significant moat built around their products and services. Others would probably die a natural death. And this is again normal. That's the way the market has always behaved.
So the main pressure on SaaS is the cost of development reducing. So companies are wondering, why should I pay, say, $1 million, 2,000 a month over a period of X years? Why not try to build it on my own when I can, white code it plus put a few engineers? Is that
That's one of the reasons. That's probably not the only reason though.
Okay, that's one of the reasons. Okay, so the core is a cost.
It's a cost argument, and it's also I'm building it for my own use cases. So let's say I'm a manufacturing company. So I exactly know my business really well, rather than trying to use a custom COTS product off the shelf. And very easy to have developers build it because the tools are all there. Think of all the development demand that they're right from building basic codes to really using AI enabled, right? For example, conversational AI on top of something, right? Building a chatbot or something, leveraging voice-based technology. Those are all there. So I don't really have to develop or wait for somebody else's development. I could fine tune the roadmap or my roadmap for my company's vision.
But a counter argument to that is, if a manufacturing company can develop its own thing at a lower cost, why can't the SaaS company do it themselves and offer it at a lower cost, probably a better product? I mean, they develop the product, they know it better, right? Isn't there a counter argument that the SaaS should be able to do it better?
You're right. So which is why a lot of the traditional SaaS-based companies, they're moving to an AI-based company. Again, going back to our Salesforce example. So Salesforce now has Agentforce, and that's exactly what they are trying to do. So how the market would react, that remains to be seen. But the point I'm trying to make is that you will see a lot of company, non-traditional company, trying to get into the development space for very specific use cases. But yes, for a very large use case, for example, for my entire CRM, there's a lot of investment that needs to be done. But this is not just one particular business function. But instead of having waiting for Salesforce or rather application software company to build a product for me, it's very easy for me to build that, because anyway, as a manufacturing company, I need to have some technology as part of my team, right? Or very core for the core technology that I have, for the core operation that I have. But anyway, need to have some technology. And given that it is so easy to build, for very specific use cases, it might make sense for me to build it myself rather than depend on somebody else to build it. So there could potentially be use cases for which, let's say, the AI transformation are not there, or be dependent on others, software companies or SaaS company, which means that more revenue to them. But now in that world, those are the use cases that I would rather build on my own. So you're right, Manish, you're not wrong. SaaS companies are actually doing it, and we see it in the marketplace. Are they going to die? Probably not. The end is not tomorrow, but they are in intense competition.
Arun, you've led so many transformations, and at the core of the transformation is change. What makes certain companies or teams be able to make a transformation or change, and where do others fail?
Well, one of the key things about transformation and change, you'll see that a lot of transformations actually take. And even in AI, you have seen a lot of reports from McKinsey, from Gartner, saying that it's like 80% of the, everybody is building a lot of POCs, right? So I have new technology come in, we are making proof of concepts, right? 80% of the POCs are actually failing, right? Between that, only 20% of them are actually going to production use case. And out of the 20% that go, 80% again don't have an ROI. Only 20% of them have ROI. And the key thing goes back to defining what the problem statement looks like. I have seen a lot of people, and even at the board level, even at us CXO level, asking the question about, how should we change with AI? And my request and advice to them is, don't think about AI at all. Think about, how does our business enable AI, right? To make sure that we're delivering the right products and services to our customers, right? So you're asking the wrong question to start off with. So at any point of time a new technology comes, I think a lot of leaders ask them the question that how should we leverage the technology, right? What does AI mean for our business? That is the right question to ask. Instead of, how can I use AI? So you're trying to find problems that fit the solution versus trying to have a right problem and then trying to figure out what the solution should be. And I'll give you a couple of examples. Let's take a customer service as an example, right? Now, there's a lot of opportunities in the customer services space for AI to come in. And how is AI can help customers? The core thing is, if I'm in the customer services, I'm running a product company, an IT or a product company, software product company, and my goal is that the customer should have the best experience, right? They have the right solution when they want to, right? At the same time, I should be able to make sure that the stickiness is there, meaning they like my product, they continue using it, and they use more of it. Have additional features coming in. Those features could be either paid, meaning I'm looking at some kind of an upsell, cross-sell, or they could be free. Doesn't really matter. They should be using more of my products. Now, one approach could be that I have a board level decision to implement some kind of an AI-based product and launch it globally, right? And I go ahead and launch it. And then there are all of these kinds of issues that come up. For example, the agents on the customer side, they're not trained well. Our customers don't have the right communication. How should they be using it? The chatbot is not tested that well, so there are hallucinations that happen, or there could be incorrect answers that the chatbot gives me. So there are all these kinds of things that happen, which is why these kinds of products fail. Alternately, the other solution would be, and those happen typically when my focus is on I'm trying to use AI in customer service, right? So the problem statement that I'm trying to solve in those cases is I want to use AI in customer services, and I'm trying to rush with it. And that's when all of the dependencies and failures happen. If I approach it with, I have a customer service, how do I use AI to improve my customer experience and operational efficiency and improve the agent that the customer experience? And all right, if I give that little problem statement, I break it up into small parts, meaning there is an agent experience that is needed, there's a customer experience that is needed, there is a workflow that ties all of them, and then there is the underlying data, the element that go with it. There's an organizational change management that goes along with it, and then there is the actual core AI, the right technologies to be used for this. And surrounding all of this is a testing, right? Making sure that I'm testing for all the use cases, including edge use cases, because if it's the customer service, it has to be 100% right. So surrounding all of that is that testing part. And then I say testing, not just internal testing, working with a select set of customers in a given geography to make sure that customers see how the product feels and they give me feedback and I incorporate those feedback. So if we did all of those things right, then the outcome would be really the way I wanted that. So see how we started with two different problem statements. So in the end result is I'm using AI from a customer service, but in the first case, I'm trying to push the AI with for customer services. In the second case, I'm trying to improve my experience, both customer experience and agent experience, and the operational efficiency with the help of AI. And those two become very different problem statements, and therefore different paths, and therefore different outcomes. And that's the difference between income big or successful and countries are not so much successful.
Arun, let's take this one step back, right? So there's a lot of change happening. Companies are trying to figure it out, and you give fantastic examples of the approach that they should be looking at, how to get it to work. But let's look at transformations with or without AI. So, reports saying 80% of AI transformations are, say, not working out. Now, what percentage of transformations actually work, irrespective of AI or not AI?
Yeah. So even if you take the AI out, so your transformation, you're right, 80% of the transformations still don't work. And part of the reason is because the way we implement those solutions, right? First, the problem definition is extremely important, Manish. So one thing that I always do is whenever we have, even the weekly meeting that we have, right? I always ensure that we have the top level, whatever the CXO defined as the problem statement, and we work with them in defining what the problem statements are. Those could be around revenue, around cost, doesn't really matter, or a combination thereof. Let's say it's only cost or only revenue, doesn't matter. The first slide is always about, the first messaging is always about, this is what we wanted to do in the process. And how do we tie everything back to that? There could be a very small operational report, but that report also has something to do with the core, the 2 or 3 messaging that the CXOs approved, right? So everything has to tie back, and people have to be constantly reminded. If it's a 6-month, 1-year project, every single week, every single day, people have to be reminded that this is what you're working towards. We're not working towards implementing a technology or a process change, but we're working toward achieving that goal. And this is what the goal is, or being laid down for the CXOs. And it's very easy to forget though, because when we start thinking about actual process, let's say there's a workflow that is defined, that is a certain system, for example, a approval workflow, right? So you are my manager, Manish, and I did something, you approve it. And there could be so many things that could go wrong. For example, the system did not trigger it. For example, it triggered the wrong way when there's somebody else. You are on leave, and then it sits in your queue for X number of days. And there's so many things that could go wrong. So we tend to get lost into all of those development details. But how do I bring people back, and everybody, back to those 2 or 3 things that the policy do this? And that's where we see higher chances of success and not get bogged down. Why do people forget? There are so many actual operational problems that happen in the first place. And we shall give you a wonderful example. There's a gentleman named that people should check out, Andy Dalapman. And the reason why I named him, because he is currently the president at a company called Cloud Software Group. He was ex-CIO at Broadcom, and is one of the mentors that they have. He is a man who has had 100% success in achieving transformation initiatives. He has a multiple M&As. I mean, if you look at the history of Broadcom has had so many M&As, right? In his current role, he's responsible for multiple modular acquisitions. They're not small M&A, like really big ones, and 100% success rate. Because at every point in time, he will remind people. One of the things that I've learned from him, in every single meeting, he will remind people. So let's say, he has been in meetings where you're talking about bugs that are there. Now imagine when you talk about bugs, we're talking about technical bugs. For example, this field will not map, or that field will not map. We're talking about the most granular level, the nuts and bolts level. And he would keep reminding people that, is this report or is this important because it helped me achieve, let's say it's a revenue driven project, is it helping me drive the revenue? If the answer is yes, let's talk about it. If no, let's move on. So imagine somebody like him getting involved at a field level discussion. So you can imagine how technical and how granular the discussion is at the most fundamental level, but bringing people back to the core discussions.
Are AI transformations harder than non-AI transformations, or
I would say, I think it is a two-part answer. AI transformation, at the end of the day, it's a transformation. And AI is one of the solution elements that is helping you enable those transformations. So that is one. The second element I would say is that's very easy in the AI world to get lost than in the previous world. And the reason is because in the previous world, technology would take some time to evolve it, right? So even if it's a quarter. In the AI world, there is a new model that is coming in every single day, literally every single day, right? So you could be, for example, be thinking about, I want to use, let's say, an open source model for this. And then tomorrow, OpenAI comes up with something that is even more better in terms of efficiency. And day after tomorrow, Gemini, Google comes up with something that's even more better. So if you are lost in that detail, you'll keep experimenting with this model versus that model, right? And then Gemini comes up with version X plus one, that is an even better version. So should I keep experimenting with this, or should I just draw a bottom line and say that this is the transformation I want to do? And I'm happy with, let's say, 20% improvement in whatever that metric might be. If you're able to do over it, that's great. But this is the baseline. So it's, if you keep going back to that problem statement, you would still be able to achieve it. But then in the AI world, Manish, it's even easier to get lost because of the rapid advancements in technology.
understood? Very interesting, Arun. Thank you for sharing. Arun, the year is 2014. You've just left PwC and you joined, Cognizant, and you stay there for many years. What kind of work do you do at Cognizant?
Yeah. So in Cognizant, I was responsible for our SAP practice in North America and what we called as CMT, Comms, Media, Entertainment and Technology. So I was involved with, working with our customers in implementing solutions, first designing the processes and then implementing solutions for both industry segments, the comms, media, entertainment and technology. The technology that we used was primarily SAP oriented solutions. So that was also the time when the revenue recognition was changing in different ways. So worked a lot with revenue recognition. There are different kinds of billing models that were also evolving. So worked a lot with our CMT customers in helping them either implement new solutions, designing the process first of all for the new revenue recognition models and billing models, and also implementing those processes and work towards using SAP solutions.
Understood. And then this was your your first company other than PwC that you had worked at, right? Because you worked at PwC for about 12 years or so. How were they culturally different, Cognizant and PwC?
So there are two broad changes that I would say that I noticed in Cognizant versus PwC. One was when I was in PwC, it was mostly a US-centric company, so we were US-centric teams that I was working with. And the nature of the project was also slightly different. We would work on projects and then you hand it over from a run perspective to another team. It could be either an internal team of our customers or they could be another partner that they work with and they'll move on to another project. When I joined Cognizant, it was end to end. So we did transformations. We would have teams that run those from a run standpoint. So we'd build it and hand it over either to our own teams or maybe another partner in few cases. But then the teams were always global. So it was like we would have teams here, and because the team but themselves were global, right? So we would have teams back in India or other parts of the world. So those are two changes that I saw, both from an engagement type standpoint and both from a teaming structure standpoint.
Awesome. At around the year 2014 or so, you authored several books around, from what I understand, you wrote 3 books. Tell us a little bit more about them.
Yeah, so I used to fly a lot during that time, Manish. And when I was in the plane, sometimes those flights would be red eyes, and I would take the late night plane from San Francisco and early morning into wherever I was traveling to. And on Thursdays, I'd be back. Most of the time while I was in the plane or I was at the airport, I was focused on my work. But there were other times when planes did not have internet. So there's very little of work that I could do. So I started thinking about writing a book and I wrote 3 books. The first book is called, one of the books is called, The Female Struggle. That was the first book. The second book was called 50% Near. And the third book is called Daddy and Me Too, which was actually a collection of short stories that was inspired by the Me Too movement. This was way back in 2014, 15, 16, somewhere on that time, where a lot of women actually came up and they spoke about how they were harassed, sexually harassed or abused. And that was called the Me Too movement. So the short story book that I wrote was inspired by the Me Too movement. It was called Daddy and Me Too, on which every story is, there is a dad whose daughter is a victim of the Me Too movement, and then he realizes that when he was younger, he had actually been on the other side. I mean, he had abused somebody, on a young woman, when he was in his earlier days. That's why it was called Daddy and Me Too, because now he's seeing it as a dad. What does it mean to be the father of a victim? Particularly when I have been on the other side of the table as an abuser myself. So it's a collection of short stories that I wrote. But those are the three books that I wrote. All of them was for charity. So work with some various charitable organizations. Whatever proceed we had, we donated it to those charity. But it was phenomenal writing those books. Those were completely different from what I was doing. So I was doing more technology, more process consulting oriented. But all of these books were very different. They were all about real humans or inspired by history of real people that I have known in the past.
Understood. Arun, what kind of work did you do with the Pro? You worked there from 2018 to 24.
Yeah, so I was at Wipro responsible for what we call as software and gaming, software platforms and gaming companies. So software platforms are software platforms, so all the software companies that we work with in North America. But gaming was a new industry vertical for me. So I learned a lot during gaming, during my day with Wipro. It was a P&L responsibility, Manish, meaning I was accountable for driving business in those particular market segments and responsible for whatever the revenue we're making, ensuring that we delivered whatever we promised to our customers. So there were large teams that respond to managing. At the same time, making sure that we are building the competencies for software platform for gaming, and building the right kind of competencies within Wipro for those market segments.
How long was your team?
So while I had a team of three-core people according to me, but overall team was up to about 1,500 odd people. Because if you look at all the engagement that we did, right, there are people spread across the world. We had people in North America. So my clients were all global clients in North America. But there's a team that we built for them were in North America, Canada, Mexico, also in Europe, and of course in India, and in some cases also other parts of the world.
So you managing P&L responsibility for about 1,500 people. That's right. So Arun, that's a fairly large team. Although there were perhaps only a few direct reports. What's a good structure for running such a large team? What did you do there?
One of the things that I learned is, I learned from that experience, Manish, is when you run services organization of that scale, right, there are two important things that come up. One is, are your customers getting the right visibility? Number one. And number two, are the people getting the right visibility? But I honestly believe that when your people are happy, that's when they deliver at their best. And if the people who are not happy, they're just doing the work for the sake of it. What are the best quality that we'll expect from people? All right. So one of the things that I've always told myself and told everybody who works with me, around me, or me, is to make sure that the people are taken care of. Look, at the same, sometimes they may not be able to solve all the problems that people have. Those could be in terms of competition, those could be in terms of career progression. But when people are not heard, then that's where the problem is. Whereas if you hear them out and try to make a genuine effort, an authentic effort to try to help them get to the next level of their career, which means that not only providing them just new opportunities in terms of work, but also training them, giving them the ability to learn from either other people or take different kind of courses, or work with different kinds of customers, expose them to different kind of planned environments so they understand what it takes to be at the next level, and then make a decision: am I ready, am I not ready, and do I really want it or not want it? All right. So having that ability, particularly in services based organization, those are some of the biggest learning that I have had, Manish. And that is something that I've always tell all my people, that from the client perspective, from a customer perspective, make sure that they are heard. And two, from our employee perspective, make sure that they are heard. And at all levels, not just my direct report, But I would have, for example, multiple all hands kind of meeting where I'm talking to everybody in the team. When I go to visit any of the location that we would have, I mean, there was COVID, so there was only restricted travel that we could do or zero travel that we could do. But even then, we had the ability to talk to people, video conferencing, so actually see them, hear them. So they also see you as a human, right? In living in your own office space or wherever you are, not just in an office environment where you're dressed differently, but they see you as a real human in your house, with a comfort zone, and you seeing them. So those are some of the things that we did, and that's something that I'm always carrying with me, particularly work on the services-based organizations.
Arun, what are what we currently do at Tech Mahindra?
So at Tech Mahindra, I'm responsible for what we call as the platform software companies. So it's similar to my role at Wipro, except that it's more gaming, right? So gaming is part of what in Tech Mahindra is what we call as media entertainment. So I'm responsible for a platform and software business in North America, which being that we all kinds of work for a platform and software businesses.
Arun, let's switch gears a little bit and delve deeper into AI. Um, you've had a tremendous experience, or I would say an awesome bird's eye view of what is happening in the world of AI, because you've talked to so many people in AI, whether it's customers or people, bringing that kind of change, whether it's products or technologies through the AI with Arun Show. Obviously, very successful, more than 100,000 subscribers now, which is great. Tell us a little bit more about, at a very high level, what are you seeing today in the world of AI?
Yeah, so let me start with the big picture view, Manish. So the way I see it, right, there are three different stages of development, and I see really three very broad stages. In the first stage that we are seeing now is, we have all kinds of processes and workflows that have evolved in a certain way, and AI, along with physical AI, is going to change all of that, and we are seeing a lot of that now, which means that in the immediate world, there are multiple processes, be it manufacturing, be it the software development, be testing, and all parts of it. All right. And AI is changing all of this. So things here and now, they are all being reimagined with AI. And this is something that we'll see for the next several years. The next phase of AI that I see is bringing more abundance to earth, which means that there are certain areas, certain problems which you have not solved for. For example, does everybody have good healthcare? Does everybody have access to good education? And the answer to that question is no. You and I come from India, where we see that there's a lot of people, while the big cities always have the best teachers, but how do I make sure that the best teachers access is also available to somebody who is 100 kilometers, 100 miles, 200 miles away from the small town? And those are the kind of things that we don't see today. How do we make sure that those kinds of people also have good access to healthcare? And those are the kinds of things that we don't see today. People could die from, simple fall, or just because they're not treated at the right time because there are no hospitals around there. So that is the next phase of AI that we will see. And again, those could be a combination of, again, physical AI and world models and other things. And the third thing that I see is bringing back greenery to the earth. And what I mean by that is there are so many things that we do on earth today. You are doing mining operation, the oil exploration that happens, right? Is there a way by which we could do all of these other parts of the universe and then bring them back as outcomes to the earth? For example, at the end of the day, what we're looking for, why do we need all this energy? Like, we're on data centers, can they be run elsewhere? And we just do the outcomes of those. And there are different kinds of technology that could potentially come out in the future. And again, those could be 40, 50, 60, 100 years, doesn't really matter. But those are three different phases that I see AI will come in. So first, reimagining all the things that we are doing today. Two, bringing more abundance to the earth. And three, bringing greenery to the earth. So those are three broad phases, and I would leave it at that.
Understood. Let's work backwards. How can AI help with, for example, making the earth green?
Great question. So think about all the things that we are doing, the non-ring activity we are doing, right? We are doing a lot of mining operations. We are doing a lot. And why are we doing mining, right? Because we need metals and minerals for a certain specific forms, right? Let's talk about rare earth minerals. We need those minerals for chips. We need coal for energy. Is there a way we could, through some mechanism in the future, understand that there could be asteroids or there could be other planets which have abundance of these kinds of rare earth minerals, and can we bring them back to Earth and essentially use the outcome of those rare earth minerals, right? So that way we're not doing anything on Earth, but using other asteroid, other planetary systems for those kinds of outcomes. And that's what I mean by bringing really back to Earth.
Are the capabilities in physical AI improving dramatically today as compared?
Yeah, we see a lot of improvement. And again, we're talking about a little bit in the future, right? So today we see, physical robots or robots, running and doing things that humans could do. But this is technology. I mean, technology always goes at an exponential pace. And I am confident that in the next several years, when you would have robots doing a lot of those things where humans could potentially be exposed to either injury or high risk areas, including mining operations, where robots could actually go and do those kind of stuff.
What's the second level of problems? The first one is the process optimization space, right? And let's reiterate, what's the second level of problems that you see AI solving? And, how would, and let's add a little bit more detail to that.
So the second level that I spoke about was bringing abundance back to Earth. And what I mean by that is there are so many problems, Manish, that we as humans have not solved. For example, healthcare, education. And those are problems, while they have evolved significantly in select parts of the world, but there are many parts of the world where there and still is a problem. I mean, if you look at many remote parts of the world where humans still exist, we always see cases of people dying because there were no medical access around them, there were no hospitals around them, there were no access to good doctors around them. We see examples where children are not educated, even though there could be a desire to have education, but then there are no good teachers. I mean, we see the memes all the time, right? Where there's a teacher who's trying to spell apple as APE, because that is what the teacher learned, or he or she learned. And imagine if you have a teacher like that, what are your kids going to learn? The problem is not about, there are no good teachers in the world. I mean, there's so many good teachers in the world, and I'm sure a lot of these teachers and people, they want to do a lot more. So how can we provide the best medical access that is available to select people, to people who are in very remote parts of the world? How can we provide the best education to children who are living in very remote parts of the world? Because that to me is very foundational to truly eliminating poverty in the world. So that is the second phase that was the strategy over here. And with the help of AI, there is potentially a mechanism by which these kinds of technologies could reach the remote parts of the world. So one of our I recollect good batchmates, Tathagat Radhaspiller, he runs a company called SitUp, and they have all of these robotic arms that does the job of a pathologist. So the problem that he was describing to me was like this. So you have somebody in a remote part of the world, and of course his robots are equally applicable to the richest people on earth. It's not that they are meant for the use case solving only for poor people sitting in remote parts of the world, right? It's applicable for anybody. But then let's say that there is no hospital nearby or no place for somebody to really understand your blood groups and do a pathologist nearby. So Deep Dive would go to a location where there is a robot that is available, his robots are available. They would take the blood sample, they would digitize it, and it goes to, the machine actually understands. There's a digital pathologist who understands the problems with your blood and gives you a report then and there. But imagine how simple is that for somebody sitting in the remote part of the world to understand the problem that they have without spending the entire day. Because when they travel the entire day, one is they're taking time away from their families, and more importantly from their work, because they don't get paid if they don't go to work, right? Or possibly also saving somebody's life. But if you have more of that kind of technology available in many other parts of the world, imagine the difference that you're making in terms of providing healthcare. Think about education also for a minute. The APEL example that they gave you, right, sitting in some remote part of the country, is they have access to the best education, because we have, you could have virtual robotic teachers teaching students in the language that they understand. So, for example, if you're in a tribal belt, you are trying to teach them gravity with the help of bows and arrows, because that's what they're used to, not using a sophisticated concept which only the city dwellers could understand. But you are trying to personalize education in a way that they understand, all right? And those could be in their own tribal language, so in their own native language. So that's the advantage that we see. And that's where we should be moving, or AI would be moving, to solve the phase 2 kind of problem that I spoke about.
That makes a lot of sense. Arun. What you're essentially saying is, at its core, let's just talk about healthcare. I mean, living in America, we get a lot of complaints about healthcare in America, right? And you hear about it everywhere in the world. At its core, essentially, is access problem, right? I mean, even in America, there might be, say, 3 doctors for every 1,000 people, and in a underdeveloped or developing country, it might be 3 doctors per 10,000, let's say, as an example, right? So what you're essentially doing is that you can dramatically improve that number and the access to having, an AI doctor or whatever that is, or the equivalent of that, right, for every person that is there, right, through technology. Is that the
That is. I mean, just think about Manish for a minute about what telemedicine has done. Right. So several years ago there was no telemedicine, but today during COVID and other time because of other reasons, there is telemedicine today. So for your most basic needs, you would actually talk to somebody on the phone and get some basic help. Now marry that with robotics based, health systems, and you could have somebody who is well equipped to take care of a little more sophisticated. And this would evolve over a period of time, right? It's not that everything would be available right from day one. But if you could have labs like that in very remote parts of the world, or some essentially all you need is internet access and some kind of devices, and those would enable a lot of, I would say, medium complexity, low for sure, but medium complexity oriented healthcare access to people in those parts of the world. And that saves them multiple things. I mean, gives them access, number one. And number two, if those guys are not available going to work because they have to go to the city or some 50 kilometers away for medical access, they lose the entire day Nordics, right? So you're helping them, earn more.
Understood, Arun. That makes a lot of sense. Let's talk about all of this from a realism point of view. What is it going to take to, fulfill this vision, right? I mean, these are awesome ideas, right? But what is implementable today and what is out there in the horizon? You talk to a lot of people who are in hardware. You talk to a lot of people in software. What are the core fundamental developments that need to happen to fulfill this vision? Whether it's a 10-year window or a 20 or a 50-year window. I don't know what that window is.
So regarding the window, Manish, I would say I certainly see that somewhere like a 30 or 50-year window, and I'm giving a broad answer because nobody knows where this is going. I think the technology exists. Can we, if for example, wanted to do something like providing healthcare access or education access to remote part, you absolutely could do it. The technology exists. What is not existing is there enough amount of money to be made? All right, so people can actually go and solve the problem. Because keep in mind, the people who have this, they're looking at it from a capitalistic perspective, and there's nothing wrong about it. So we would see problems that are being solved, which actually have access, where the founders of this company see that there's money involved, meaning they're able to make money. Beyond a point in time, there would be philanthropists who would come in, and those could take some time. When you have solved all of these problems, everything that you can think of in today's world is reimagined with AI. Whatever that might be, it could be robotic cooking, it could be robotic doctors. Instead of you traveling 3 miles and going to your doctor, you could actually have a physical AI version of a doctor in your room talking to you, because that's where the money, that's where the valuation of those companies are. The moment we see that those systems evolve, the next version of those would be in remote parts of the world. So you always have to approach it from that perspective also, right? Is there money to be made? Probably the answer to that question is not so much, because how many users are going to be there in those parts of the world, right? Is the market going to value your company 10x, 15x, 100x, or 1000x because you're solving a social problem, right? Those are the kind of questions that need to be addressed. The answer to those questions is probably no. There's not so much money to be made, right? But in 30 years' time, once these kinds of technologies are evolved for people, then that's when you're starting to do. So I'll give you an example. Think about Uber for a minute, right? Or Waymo for a minute, right? Because Waymo is more recent. Waymo started in the city of San Francisco, right? In San Francisco, even without Waymo, it's very easy to get a cab, right? But why did Waymo start in San Francisco? Because it's very easy. People see the technology, and there's a different kind of experience that you can call for. Would the city not have a good life without Waymo? Probably not. All right, people will still have access to Uber for that matter, and Uber is equally good in the city. So that is what you need. So Waymo started off in San Francisco. They have a really good user base right now, and then they're expanding to other parts. So they're in Austin, they're in other parts of the world, and maybe another 5, 10 years time, you would see Waymo in lot more cities. And likewise, like Waymo, Tesla also had an equivalent solution, right? And there would be many more companies that would come up in next some time, right? And today, Uber is available in many second tier, third tier cities too, not just in the US, but in many other parts of the world. If not Uber, there is an equivalent of Uber in that particular country, that particular geography that are available to people in second tier, third tier, fourth tier city. So that's how a technology evolves. You evolve it in a given city, people see the value of that, people make money out of it, and then there are other, copycat solutions who take that core underlying technology, implement it, improve it, innovate it for that particular geography, and then they run with it. So it's the same kind of thing over the next several years. People have to see the value of that. People have to see the valuation of that, and then be able to run with it.
That's an exciting future that you portray, Arun. Of course, you talk to a lot of people. Arun, one of the things that you've talked about is the geopolitics of AI. There seem to be several camps. There's US, China, a lot of movement in India now, and there's this whole world of sovereign AI. Tell us a little bit more on what's going on, and what is the future of geopolitics and AI.
So, Manish, we see that sovereign AI is becoming a thing now. Purely from a pre-AI era, when I say pre-AI, before real ChatGPT and OpenAI came up, people were not hesitant on importing technology. Of course, there are some countries like China, for example, they wanted to build a whole stack, the tech stack, right from the beginning, from the silicon all the way till AI models now, right? The reason why we see more of sovereign AI is for multiple reasons. One is people want to be protected. Two is people have realized that data that is imported with trained AI models may not work in their own situations. And I'll give you an example. So take sickle cell in India. India, I did not know till a couple of days before, that India is the second largest population of sickle cell patients in the world. Now, the models that exist in determining if somebody has sickle cell or not, it comes from primarily the Western countries. And the definition of the sickle cell in the Western world is very different from a chemical and from a composition standpoint than in India. So the answer is, can I use the Western models in India? The answer is no, because it will give you correct answers. So I have no choice, but if I truly want to build a sickle cell model in India, and I'm talking about just one disease, just one particular country, I have to have India-based data in order to prove the point. So people have realized in healthcare and education, again, take education as an example. There's a way by which you teach from a language, from an example standpoint. You talk about an apple falling down a tree in the Western world. If you go to a very remote part of the world, people have no idea, or kids have no idea what an apple is because they've never seen an apple, right? There are many deserts where kids have not seen a tree. So what does an apple falling off a tree mean, right? So if you think of those examples, it really means that you have to have a very, very personalized, localized form of language. And then there are so many language dialects that exist in the world. If your language is not in the digital realm, right, the language is dead. So there are people who really want to preserve and protect the language that they are speaking. So given all of these, sovereign AI is here. It's the real thing now. And you'll see more and more, not company, but country invest in sovereign AI. And when countries start building about sovereign AI, they have to have the governments, of course, will not have either the funding or even the talent pool to build solutions like this. So they have to depend on private companies and companies who are vested in that particular country to build those kinds of technologies. Which means that if there's a country in China, for example, that is building from, all the way from top to bottom, supported by the Chinese government, other countries do not trust them so much. If India is trying to build something with that, other countries do not trust them so much. So we will see a lot of countries, for all these reasons that I cited about, building technology like that, and companies emerging from these who are willing to invest in those kinds of bigs. So we'll see that thing, and because it's going to be localized for every country, there will be a lot of localization, lot of local governance laws that will be passed, enforced in those kinds of countries. And every country is what I call the splinternet, right? The internet is splitting because of AI and other reasons. And every country will have its own sort of AI world.
Thank you for sharing the vision for what's far out, and what are the interesting things that interesting trends that you see today.
Yeah, so today there's a lot of things happening, Manish. This is the decade of the AI agent, and we will see AI agents in pretty much everything that we are doing. So think about a process like, let's say I'm in the finance department, I'm in the marketing department, and I'm training, and all of the business processes that they see in the enterprise world, they are going to be reimagined with the help of AI. So, if there's a workflow that I'm running, I'll have an AI agent. For example, if there's a marketing campaign that my team is responsible for, think about all the things that the team does. They look at budgeting, they look at planning, they look at actual campaign execution, they look at executing those campaigns, or designing and executing those campaigns. And of course, all the follow-up that happen, the metrics and the reporting and the dashboard, all of that whole stuff, right? In tomorrow's world, when I say tomorrow, it means literally tomorrow, right? There are AI agents that are actually helping people. Well, I just have to tell the AI agent that, hey, this is the budget that I have been allocated by my CFO. Go design campaigns. And the AI agent will actually go and run those campaigns and execute those campaigns and design those campaigns. And what does it mean for people? So people become an orchestrator of AI agents, right? There will be people who lose their jobs, and they're seeing a lot of that. So if my only job is to execute, and that's the only thing that I'm willing to learn, I don't want to learn more, then I'm going to be the one who's going to lose my job. And we are seeing a lot of that. People who are either unwilling to learn more, or or just an outcome of the natural outcome of that. Even if I'm willing to learn more, the company that does not have the account to accommodate for my kind of skill at least at that point of time. So I have to go back and train myself, upskill myself, so I can cooperate in a world of AI agents and human agents. So those things will happen, Manish, and we are seeing it every day and day and all. But those processes are not going to happen again with next 1 year or so. Many of those processes have evolved over in different periods of time at different kinds of industries. Different industries will adopt AI in different forms and shapes. There'll be some, for example, like let's say a core loan process or a core financial part process will probably take a little more time or less time depending on the kind of country and the economic that you operate in. And there'll be others that will adopt very, very quickly or have already adopted it.
Oh, thank you very much for sharing. Arun, we have talked about a lot of different things. This has been an absolutely fantastic conversation. What else would you like to share with more?
Manish, one of the things that I'll say is, especially I know there's a lot of young people who come to your show. One of the things that I would say is, why do you think about AI? But then there is a larger context that you have to think about your own your life, your career, and so on. And one of the things that they always tell people is, especially young people, is that there are so many things that you want to do, right? If you draw Venn diagrams of what is it that you are doing, so really, there are certain things that you're really good at, and there are certain things that the world will pay you for, right? And there are certain things that the world really needs, right? So, for example, I could be very good in jumping on the bed all day. I could do it all day. But does the world really need it? No. Can I be paid for that? No. So, can I pursue it as a career? No. But then, I'm very good, let's say, at, designing a workflow for my customers. Does the world need it? Yes. Can I be paid for that? Yes. Let me focus on that. If you draw those three Venn diagrams, and at the sweet intersection of those three, that's what you should be doing in your career. If you focus on the others, you might want to think of, what is a good hobby for me versus what is that I should be doing from a career standpoint. So that is something I tell my kids all the time. We have discussions over different points of time, and that's a great job thinking about your life with careers.
Arun, thank you very much for sharing, that perspective. You've given us all a lot of things to think about. Arun, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for being on the Influence Show.
Thank you, Banish. Thank you so much for having me.